Now, the expectations for the collection of the rest of these players on the Stanford roster that are moving on to the NFL draft, not quite as high as Solomon Thomas and Christian McCaffrey. Let's point out the wide receivers, Don. We got Michael Rector, who caught 32 last year for 3 touchdowns, 104 in his career, 16 for scores. Francis Owusu, of course, made everybody's highlight reel a couple of years ago against UCLA with that ridiculous catch, and he caught 34 passes over the course of his career. So we give you the stage on Rector first, who's just got blazing speed, but maybe a bit smallish.
Yeah, a little bit, but he was by far the fastest of the players that Stanford had this year, between the combine and pro day. He put up a 4.3 thereabouts, and he's a former state champion in Washington in high school and track, and ran for Stanford. And the kid he can just fly. So he's a speed merchant. If Al Davis were alive, he would take him for sure. But he's also got underrated hands. He's a really, really good wide receiver, and I think a lot of folks have lost sight of that. He played much more of a possession receiver kind of role, particularly in his last season and a half or so, in Stanford's offense. So I think somebody's going to take a flyer on him and get him, and they're going to get somebody who can stretch the field for sure, but might surprise folks with his ability to catch the football.
And then we also threw out Owusu. I don't know if he has draftable statistics and measurements.
Now here's what's interesting about Owusu. He put up a surprising time. He put up a 4.34 at Stanford's pro day, and he's a big kid. He's got good size. He goes about 220. And he put up a really surprising number, from what I understand, which did open a few eyes. I don't know if he'll be drafted or if he'll be more in the undrafted free agent kind of category. Yeah, you mentioned his spectacular catch against UCLA a few years back, which was highlighted prominently at the ESPYs. He didn't show that kind of consistency with his hands, but he surprised people with his performance at the pro day. And I think he's got a shot at going in the late rounds somewhere. He's got that prototypical size that they kind of like now. And he showed more speed than people believed he had.
So I take it from the size speed explanation you just gave me versus what he was able to accomplish there at school, it had more to do with the style of offense and maybe dropping a few footballs.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't – Owusu's not one of the guys where people are like, man, yeah, he's a great receiver. Too bad he can't catch. That was not – he never had that kind of reputation. And, few people have ever had the kind of catch he put on film against UCLA. But he wasn't known as somebody who was a spectacular receiver. He knew he was solid. He was known as solid. He generally wasn't regarded as quite as strong as his older brother, who has spent some time in the NFL on a couple of different rosters now. But he had a solid, if unspectacular career, but his measurables look really good to translate to the next level throughout the draft process. So we'll see what happens. He'll land on a roster somewhere and get invited to camp. We'll see if he can stick or not.